Welcome to the Livfiit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. Hello. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode 45 of the Livfiit Listens podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. Technically, at the time this is coming out, you were listening to a past Livfiit because I'm pre-recording this because I'm currently in Tahiti when this is coming out. Honestly, if I just shut up, no one would know, but I always feel the need to say tee this. I'm not actually filming this in real time, when it doesn't matter. Anyway. Okay, so for my gratitude for today, I'm feeling really thankful that I have the ability and flexibility to be able to work on my own schedule. Right now, I'm getting a lot of work done on this Saturday, and I know that might seem like some people's worst nightmare is you're working on a Saturday, but I really love that I'm able to move things around and have that flexibility. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it honestly sucks, not only for the people who are I can't ever stop working. I do still feel that way. I then feel I'm constantly working, but I mean, sometimes it sucks because it's hard to get your work done and be productive throughout the day. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm not productive enough. So I have all this work to do at nighttime instead of if I just was productive during work hours. But sometimes it's hard when you're working for yourself. No one's holding you accountable. You're at home, So it definitely has its pros and cons. Do not get me wrong. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. But in scenarios like this, it just is really nice and I'm thankful for it. And it just makes me feel like I'm still living my own life, So that is what I'm thankful for today. But for this episode, I feel like this is going to be kind of a short and sweet one. And I've said this phrase before. This is my first time I'm saying it, but I kind of wanted to dedicate a whole little episode to it and, be able to fully explain this so you guys can understand this little perspective shift because it has really... It just changed the relationship that I have with myself. And when I'm struggling, I always go back to this phrase, which really helps me. So I'm hoping that it will obviously help you guys too, hence why we are sharing it. So like I said, this was something that really truly helped me develop actual true self-love. And I think you guys have heard of my era in 2019 when I really was struggling with self-confidence and all this sort of stuff. My body image and my confidence in the relationship with myself was the worst it had ever been. I grew up with growing up, I was pretty conventionally confident. I didn't really struggle too much with just my relationship with myself. I never felt like I was at battle with myself. But when I hit 18, 19 years old, no, more 19. Yeah. 19 to 20 years old is when it was really hard for me. And I just was struggling with my body and I just struggled a ton with the words I was speaking to myself. It just was really not a good scene. And that was the point in time when I learned that whole journey was the time when I learned the lesson of self-love, and taking the time to develop that. But I just remember it truly felt like a battle. Not only did I lacked a good relationship with myself and I lacked confidence, it was since I was feeling that way, I was angry at myself for feeling that way. Do you know what I'm saying? I was pissed. I felt like something was wrong with me and I was less than. And that's why I didn't feel confident. That's why I didn't like the way that I looked. That's why I didn't have a good relationship with myself. Because I felt like I was doing something, I was to blame. It was my fault. And part of me was pissed at the other part of me for that. I don't even fully know how to explain it, but it felt like a genuine battle. I felt like I was fighting me every single day. And that in and of itself was the block for me developing any sort of relationship within myself and any sort of self-love. I was just pissed and I was battling myself. And I literally remember this clear as day where I slowly, because then eventually the whole way that I discovered affirmations was through YouTube, not surprisingly enough, because I've always been a little YouTube nerd. But so that's where it's my first inkling of hope, like, because I was like, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living in such a low mental state. Like, I need something to help to get me out of this. That's when I discovered affirmations, and that's when I started to write down affirmations and a gratitude list to help just raise my spirits overall. And so that's when I slowly kind of started to develop more self-love, if you will, like slowly but surely, because I was just changing the narrative that I was saying to myself, the words I was speaking to myself. And I still remember, like, when I slowly like, I could feel myself developing self-love. And I still, like, vividly remember, like, there was a time where I could feel myself forgiving the other part of me, if that makes sense, and like finally coming to peace with me and like who I am and all aspects of myself. And I remember I was taking a shower and I literally gave myself a hug. Like, I wrapped my arms around myself and gave myself a hug, and I like meant, like, it was sincere. Like, and it was still such, even looking back, like, it was such a surreal moment, because it was the first time that I finally was like, I surrender to you. I'm with you. I stand with you. I love you. I'm proud of you. Like, we can do this. And it finally was the point where I just kind of surrendered and like made peace with myself. And I realized, like, listen, it's you and me. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. Like, I was like, listen, it's you and me throughout the rest of my life. Like, you're always going to be there with me. I'm always going to be there with you. People are going to come into our life, for some for a quick minute, and for some for the rest of our lifetime. But you are the only one who has been with you through everything and will be with you through everything. Like, you need to just put down the sword and like make a truce with you. And it just finally really hit me. And that's just when I truly realized, like, you are on your same team. Like, you're not trying to fight yourself. You're not your opponent, right? Like, you need to realize you are on the same team as yourself. You are going through life together. You always will go through life together. And it does no one any good, especially yourself, to feel like you are living in a constant battle and constantly at war with yourself, with your mind, with your body. It's just going to make the journey of life so much more burdensome and feel a lot more heavy and difficult, and feel like you're constantly having this resistance. Where if you just surrender and say, listen, we're in this together, we're on the same team, we're going to make it through this, we're going to work in synergy and work together, everything is going to flow a lot more easier. So that's just what I told myself, like, in that moment, like, whoa, like, there's no need for me to try to fight myself and work against myself and feel like I need to force myself to be a certain way or get pissed at myself when I don't do well and talk down to myself. Like, no, how would you treat a teammate? Like, I honestly want you guys to think about this as an exercise. Like, think about, I don't know if you guys ever played sports. I played sports in high school, and like, I would never, ever, ever, if a teammate of mine was like struggling, I would never go over to them and talk down to them and say, you suck. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Like, pull it together. You got to do better. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I would never, ever, ever do that. And so you need to think of it the same way. Like, talk to yourself same way you would talk. I mean, I always say, talk to yourself like you were your own best friend, or speak to yourself like the same way you would speak to someone you love. And same thing here. Like, speak to yourself the same way you would speak to a teammate. Like, if your teammate is struggling, what would you do? You would offer them words of encouragement, right? You would help lift their spirits. You would comfort them. You would say it's okay. Maybe you would give them some constructive feedback of how to improve, but you would stay there with them and help them in a constructive way. You wouldn't just completely obliterate them and say all this negative crap to them to completely make them feel any worse. But the irony is, like, that's what people usually do when they speak to themselves, when they mess up, when they're having a bad body image day, when they didn't get that job offer that they wanted, or they failed the test that they felt like they studied really hard for. It's like, we are always opt to just being at war with ourselves and just being straight up mean and like saying mean things and talking down to ourselves and yada, yada, yada. And it's no secret that it gets us absolutely nowhere. It just makes the situation worse. It makes you feel worse for what you did or what you didn't do and all that sort of stuff. And it just doesn't help you with anything in the long haul. Whereas for me, it's like, when I'm speaking to myself in a kind manner, when I'm offering myself encouragement, I have grace with myself. I have patience with myself. I forgive myself, right? I give myself the space to, not be absolutely perfect. And then if I mess up, it's okay. It happens. Like, give myself the space to like not be perfect and like let me, go through life and learn as I go. Like, that just has helped me so much with truly being at peace with myself and realizing that this whole journey through life, like, it's not about being at war with yourself to like compete to then somehow attain this higher level of being. Like, truly it comes from you learning to be truly at peace with yourself and who you are, and learning to work together and in synergy with who you are, and learning to be on your own team, that's when things will effortlessly flow for you. And that's when life gets a whole lot enjoyable and you're able to show up as your best. And no matter what environment that looks like, whether that's you applying for that job or studying for that exam or, shooting your shot in a relationship, it's like, I just can promise you, especially speaking from where I am now, and I don't mean this at all from like a stuck up place or like, oh, I don't ever deal with any negativity with myself anymore. Like, I'm always healing. I'm always working on things. Like, you guys know that I'm not perfect, and I never want that to, I don't want you guys to ever think that's what my point is in any of my episodes. Like, I'm continuously working through these things, but I think the goal is always to kind of just improve, right? Like, yes, I still have that self-deprecating voice. Yes, sometimes I'm still hard on myself, but it's like 10 bajillion times less frequent as it was in 2019 when it was at its heat, and it was like the only thing I could think of when I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just talked down to myself. Like, I just spoke to myself so rudely in ways that I would never speak to another human being. And it's like, now when I look at myself in the mirror, for example, it's like, maybe I don't love the way that I look. Like, right now, to be fully honest, I'm not super confident in my physique. I'm really not. And I'm not super comfortable in it either. And like, in the past, I would have most likely had a meltdown every time I looked in the mirror. And now I look in the mirror or like see myself on camera, I'm like, that isn't ideal. It's like less than ideal for me. But I don't look at myself anymore, and I'm not like, wow, you're this and that, you're this, you're that. Like, I'm not calling myself names or anything like that. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, like, I don't really like the way that's looking right now, but that's it. It doesn't have to be anything more or less than that. Like, that's all that is. It doesn't mean that it's coming at my character. It doesn't mean it's coming at my worth or my value or my deservingness as a human or my worthiness of love. It's like, that's just the fact, but it doesn't have anything to do with my character and my identity, where previously it's like I used to destroy myself from things like that. Or like, if I, didn't achieve something or do well on something that I wanted to do well at, it's like I just have way more grace and forgiveness, and like, yeah, I just give myself more space just to be, and like still be there to support me even when things aren't at their peak. Because I've spoken about this previously as well. It's like, life isn't always going to be this upward, like this just complete straight line towards success and betterment and achievement. Like, life is a wave. I did a whole podcast episode on that. I feel like it's episode 16. I don't know why that just came to me. Let me know if it's episode 16. But that seems wicked early. I don't know if it's episode 16, but anyways, but that's what life is. Like, there's always going to be ups and downs. And like, we're hoping that, the end of the day trend line is still up in a positive way, but you need to give yourself grace of those times of like the troughs and the waves of life. And like, for me right now, just speaking with this in the sense of like this fitness and kind of physique example, like right now I kind of feel like I'm in a trough. I don't really feel like I'm at like any sort of peak physique for me, but like, that's okay. Like, that doesn't mean I'm any less worthy or anything like that, or anything less capable or less valuable. It's like, this is just where I'm at in my journey, and I'm going to still be forgiving and be patient and hold space for me. And I'm still going to support myself in this time of my journey. And I guess I can't speak for everyone, because I do kind of know people that feel like they work better when they're under pressure or under criticism, which I can't help but feel like there has to be like some sense of like trauma response. But for me, like if I shut down if I feel like I did really poorly, or I messed up, or I look awful, or if I'm just like really, if me or anyone is really harsh on me, I'm not like, oh, that just inspired me to be better. Like, that just maybe, it just makes me be like, you're right. And I lay down and I'm like, I'm done trying. This is it. Like, I'm done. So for me, like, staying in a positive headspace, like I'm saying, and being kind and encouraging to myself, by, not tearing myself apart in the mirror if I'm having a bad body image day, or not getting super down on myself if I create a video that didn't go really well, or whatever the case may be, or I didn't get a job that I really wanted, a brand deal. It's like, I do so much better when I keep my spirits up, and I just am still encouraging and like hold space and say, okay, maybe today is not my day, but that's okay. They can't all be my day. Like, that sort of thing. It's like, it just gives me a lot more grace and space just to be. And it has tremendously helped with my self-love and my happiness from day to day, and helping me continuously just keep staying in the game and like keep trying to show up my best every single day, even if that looks different every single day. So the next time that you feel like you guys are just like really You guys know what I'm talking about. Like the days when you're just like feel like you're fighting yourself. Maybe you've never worded it that way, but like you know what I'm saying. And maybe now you'll like get what I'm saying. Like those days where you're just fighting with yourself, you're so just talking down with yourself and whatever the case may be, like have that awareness and you got to tell yourself like, no, listen, I am on my same team. Like there's no need for me to fight myself and what's going on and be rude to me and all this sort of stuff. Like you're just fighting your own kind right now, which is helping no one and not the situation at all. And it's very much so not helping you come up with a solution to move forward, to be able to show up as a better you and work through whatever adversity you feel like you're going through right now. And when you're seeing it like that, it makes so much more sense. You're like, oh, why would I just turn on my own kind? Like that's completely just counterproductive and it's not doing anything. So reminding yourself like, oh, we're a team. Like I'm supposed to work with myself, not against myself. Like then everything else is going to work with you as opposed to against you. Like your body, your mind, everything is going to also work with you. And once you kind of just put down your sword and release that mindset of like, I need to argue with myself and fight with myself to get this thing or look this way or do this thing. Once you understand like, oh, I'm not working against myself, I'm working with myself. Then that's when you can actually focus on approaching the situation at hand that you're trying to work through as opposed to you just being your own opponent and just preventing you from making any sort of progress whatsoever. So that's another thing you could tell yourself as well. Like I am working with myself, not against myself. So my affirmation for this epi, super simple. All it says is I am on my own team. Wow. I feel like I need pom-poms. If you're seeing me on YouTube, I have my hands like up in fists, like give me a C. Okay, anyways, one more time. I am on my own team. Please scream this again. Scream it from the rooftops when you're just having a really freaking hard day with yourself. When you're really down on yourself, you feel like you're fighting yourself. You feel like you're at war. You feel like you're working against yourself. You feel like you're working against your body. You're not feeling like you're on your same team. Say this out loud and it really will allow all those pieces to come together and it will allow kind of everyone. When I say everyone, I mean your mind, spirit, and your body to come together in unison and in synergy to then approach whatever you're trying to do, solve, be, become, experience. And that's when it's going to be really powerful energy for you to move forward, as opposed to kind of all that conflicting energy from all sides, kind of arguing with one another and putting resistance on one another. You're able to come on one side of that fence and make progress towards the direction that you're actually wanting to go in. So thank you guys so much for listening. I feel like this is definitely this is like the shortest epi I've done in a really freaking long time, but I didn't want to drag this out for too long, but I did genuinely want to make a podcast on this topic because, like I said, it's been very, very revolutionary, and I really want you guys to revisit this perspective when you guys are struggling because it has gotten me out of some really hard mental struggling times, if you know what I'm saying. So thank you guys so much for watching or listening. As always, if you're feeling up to it and you want to share this podcast, I really would appreciate you subscribing, a rating, a review, sharing it on your story, sending it to a friend. All of that good stuff really helps this podcast grow and help impact more lives, which is always the goal here. And next week, I will be back. Next episode will be me back from Tahiti, and I'll give you a little synopsis real quick of how that all went. So we'll see how it goes. But again, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. I'm sending you guys so much love. Enjoy your week, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.